Welcome to another episode of the $1 Billion Broker Podcast. My name is Ross LeCane. I'm bringing my 25 years industry experience together with leading experts around the globe to give you insights on how to live a better life and grow a profitable mortgage broking business that you are proud of. Today we have Jeremy Fisher from First Street, the top independent brokerage in the country. Welcome to the $1 Billion Broker Podcast. My name is Ross LeCane. Today we have Jeremy Fisher from First Street, and he's been one of the top brokers consistently in the industry for the last 20 years. He's probably written about $2 billion in mortgages personally, and an all-round good guy. So welcome, Jeremy.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks for having me, and obviously always happy to chat. We've known each other for a while.
Definitely.
And we've always crossed paths in a positive way. So happy to have a chat today.
Excellent. I think you've got a lot of great information that a lot of brokers out there will gain a lot of insights from. So just firstly, let's just touch on the current market in terms of from yourself. I can see you sitting at home there, and how's it been for you?
Look, I mean, it's definitely a change to be, sitting at home on a permanent basis. But we moved to a paperless office a good couple of years ago now, and really got our processes down pat to ensure that obviously no one was ever expecting this. But to ensure that our business would never be disrupted if something would occur in the future, that we were very mobile. So that's been important to me for a while now. So obviously everyone working from home and working remotely has meant that disruption in terms of that different style of work environment hasn't impacted business. So obviously we're impacted business for other reasons, just with the market, but the disruption has been, I'd say, next to zero, which is really positive. We've got a team of roughly around 20 people. So it's been great to see that everyone has been able to adapt to these changes and continue to operate and work remotely. So, hopefully we'll be back, as things ease up over the coming weeks and months. But touch wood, it hasn't impacted us to the point where we can't continue business as usual.
Mm. From your point of view, what's the biggest positive that you think's come out of the last sort of 6 weeks being in isolation?
Look, the positive is maybe from a business perspective, realising that business hasn't been interrupted. You put a lot of measures in place and you spend a lot of time on processes, and I guess you don't always see the value at the time. But now if you look back in hindsight, to see, 20 plus people all operating remotely, independently, but still everything remaining consistent, fluid, no breaks in the chain. From various, areas of the business. We've also got some offshoring as well with some of our back-end processing. All of that has just continued as business as usual. So I guess, really happy that that's, I guess how we've evolved over the years. Very different to when I started. I was, one-man show, and there was processes didn't exist. I just did things as and when needed, and learned as I went. But there was no documented processes. But I think as you grow a team and have various people handling various aspects of the business or the stages of business, you realise very quickly that documented processes are really important. So I guess really positive that we've been able to achieve just a non-disrupted business during this time.
Yeah, congratulations. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I've heard your story previously, and I think it's a good one, that when you started, you struggled to write business for about 6 months, you said.
Yeah, no, I didn't, the first 6 months, I don't know why I continued, because to be honest, I don't think I wrote a single loan, and certainly didn't make any money for the first 9 months. Fortunately, it was pre-kids, and, so we had, a little bit longer staying time to be able to see it through. But look, even anyone that, starts the industry today that I chat to, I don't think they're going to be waiting 6 to 9 months necessarily to receive some income, but there's no question. I say to them, the first 1 or 2 years, you got to be in for the long game. It's not an overnight business. So my first 6 months was enjoyable. You could.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic story and a fantastic lesson for anyone listening who's in those first few months that are doing it tough, that, hey, you can be the top broker in the country, even if you get off to a rough start, is if you have that ambition and to drive through those failures. So I think, that's a real credit to yourself for having the long-term view and sticking to it. And we were, chatting when we chatted a couple of weeks ago around all the challenges that we've been through to grow $1 billion business. A lot of people think it's easy and they see you up there getting the awards, but they don't realise, what we've actually been through to get there.
Yeah, look, and I think the reality is that, on the outside, when you see someone writing some big volume, one, what does it take them to get there? Where's the journey, along the way? And to understand that is I think really important. And yes, you do see some of the up and coming, brokers write some huge numbers in their first couple of years, and that's great. But I think that's the minority. The majority of brokers have spent their time, learning the industry, growing, joining franchise groups, joining teams, and then maybe going in their own, whatever it might be. But there's normally many hurdles within that journey to get to where they've, become when they're starting to write the big volume. So it's definitely not an overnight business, in my opinion. But as I said, it's been a great journey.
So winding back from there, when you start off, you're a one-man band, not writing too much business. What do you think the biggest turning point in your career was, just looking back?
Look, I think it was, certainly there's persistence. There's nothing more to it. I was really, conscious in the first couple of years that I wanted to make sure that, I didn't hear from anyone, the typical liners, if I only knew you were a mortgage broker. This is not an everyday transaction when someone normally buys a property or refinances a loan. So, if you miss the opportunity with people around you that, are taking out a loan, then you're probably not going to have that opportunity with them for another couple of years. So what I wanted to do is, one, make sure that everyone knew what I was doing without shoving it down their throat. I just didn't want to hear the excuse, if I only knew you were a mortgage broker. Reached out to my network, to the community that I dealt in, the sporting clubs that I was associated with, and just made sure. And I did some small little sponsorships and just to build brand. And that's probably what the first couple of years, I think I just really invested a lot of time and energy in just building the brand. Having an association with a couple of reputable businesses. Ray White, a couple of their offices in the eastern suburbs supported me, and a couple of other businesses, Richardson Wrench. So a few of the local real estate offices were supporting me with obviously referring me business. But the association with some reputable brands, no different to an Aussie Home Loans. The association in those first few years to differentiate you from just another mortgage broker, having the association with some reputable brands, I think is really important. So that, to me, in the first few years, obviously it took its time, but I think that's where I started to see some support of the business. And obviously then you become your own brand, and your brand is then the reason for someone coming to you. But the first few years, it's certainly having the association with some reputable businesses, definitely.
And how did that happen? So did it happen organically, or did it happen strategically with those relationships with the agents back then?
Look, probably organically. I think, I knew someone in one of the offices, and real estate offices, and obviously so I lent on that relationship. And then and I think as time went on, you build a relationship and rapport with that particular office, but then one of the real estate agents goes and moves to another office down the street. So then you just continue. So I think it's just it's that follow-on effect. And it's no different to, in the early days when, if I had one client buying a property, but that one client, had an accountant, had a solicitor, had a real estate agent involved in the transaction. So I would always make sure from that one client interaction, to reach out to the 3 or 4, associated people around him that were potentially going to be future referral partners. So I always tried to impress myself upon as I said, the people around that one purchase. So again, that's just how I tried to open doors in the early days. Just not just looking at the singular client or just that singular client's network in terms of their friends and family, but also those professional people around them that have obviously helped to make that transaction possible.
Beautiful. And it doesn't take a lot more effort, right? Because they're part of the transaction anyway. So it's just lubricating the wheels in terms of communication between all parties. And I think that's the thing about building a relationship, just comes down to effective communication.
Yep.
And tying people in.
Yeah. And look, the reality is you're going to be giving up potentially, certainly in the beginning days, more time than you're going to get back in value. But to me, as I said, I invested time in the first couple of years to build on the brand. So the brand is me, not necessarily, whether it's Street or Aussie Home Loans, whatever. To me, it's the individual is the brand. And I still have that same philosophy with all the guys and girls in the office. I want them to build their own brand, because it's them that the clients come to. And it's them that the clients come back to. So, but yeah, I think it's just, the simple things, but it's certainly, building the relationships and then investing time in those relationships is critical. You can't just expect leads to continue to flow in. So, I would go and invest time in sales meetings and auctions and, on a weekly basis, I'd be attending the team meetings in the various real estate offices. I'm just giving them a quick, market update as what's happening in the mortgage market. So again, just invest the time, and the rewards will come over a longer period of time.
Exactly. So you started. It was around what early 2000s. When was it?
Yeah, 2002.
Yeah,
so it's been a while.
Definitely. And so you're saying now that because you've got obviously a massive loan book, it's obviously it's publicised, so it's getting up there. It's close to $2 billion now. Is that sort of where you're headed towards that figure?
Yeah. Look, I mean, the office is, I think, sitting well over 5. So I think we've got there's some big dollars sitting in there. As I said, we've got some really key and core brokers that have helped to build this business. So we don't have a massive team. We have a nice close knit group of really successful brokers.
So how many on your team at the moment?
So don't quote me on it, but I think it's about 14. I think it's about 14 brokers. We've got a couple of financial planners, and then we've got a few support staff. So we're very lean on the support staff. And that's I guess is how the business has evolved over time. Is that I've always been in favour of building that relationship with the client, right? And to me, that meant being there for the entire duration of the journey with that client. So not just meeting with the client and then having someone else in the office look after them throughout the bulk of the process, and then coming back at the end and saying congrats. So for me, it's meant, I wanted to be part of that whole journey. I want to be available when the client rings me during the process and say what's going on, and I know exactly what's going on because I'm involved. So all the brokers are very hands-on with their clients, and for me, I got to the point where I was got too busy, I guess you could say, to be able to really well and truly look after these clients. My early days, and that's when I decided to bring on another broker. So rather than bring on a support person, I brought on another broker who I could then refer some clients from the outset to that broker would then look after those clients from start to finish. So I guess we've still got that same philosophy in the office, that if anyone gets too busy, they'd actually will refer the client to someone else who can manage that client from start to finish and build a relationship. And, because at the end of the day, we're all selling the same product. We all can negotiate to some extent the same rate. So, the differentiation to me is relationship. So like you said before, whether it's say partners or referral partners or your clients, you need to build that relationship for them to be able to be loyal to you over a long period of time. And I guess, so that's how we've operated, and the proof's in the pudding. We've still got a loan book that's growing. Obviously it gets harder to grow as the loan book gets bigger. But our clients are still to this day extremely loyal, and it's very rare that a client will drop off our book without us, being aware of it or being across what's going on. So.
Yeah. So can we give some perspective in terms of, so you're in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. What is your average loan size that you write?
Yeah. Look, mine's just above $1 million. And obviously it's, yes, the eastern suburbs market, the property prices are higher, the loan amounts are higher. I think the office, though, is still sitting well and truly over between 700 odd number, somewhere in that space over the last 12 months. So the average loan size, even across the whole office outside the eastern suburbs, is still fairly reasonable. And it obviously helps to grow a bigger book, but less transactions and higher loan amounts is probably what I would say our office would
And lots of competition out there.
Yeah, look, competition is good and healthy. You know, I've always been under the belief that, I'm happy if another mortgage broker wants to open up their office next door. It gives you the opportunity to prove yourself as to, why your business is either an award-winning broker or why you can, I guess talk, whatever it might be, is because you know that you're going to deliver, a great service and, obviously look after your clients. So, yeah, I think competition's healthy, great, and I think in all areas there's probably plenty of it. But yes, I'm, as I said, happy to have competition.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've done amazing to be. I think you're ranked number 4 in the top 25 brokerage in the country. Yeah, so and you look at the likes of Aussie and Mortgage Choice and.
Yeah, well, look, we're not going to, we're small fish. We're small fish compared to them. But look, we were the number 1 ranked independent business, non-franchise, which I was really, really stoked. We've been up somewhere similar before, but never as high. But that, as I said, as you said at the beginning, I mean, that's, 18 odd years of, just kind of just continually building on the business year after year, making changes and growing and pain and mistakes and everything else that goes along with it. So it's time in the game. But certainly, I look up to, the businesses above, irrespective of being a franchise or not. I mean, they all started similarly, with small businesses and grew, the mammoths that they are today. So, that's no easy feat. I think, businesses like mine and other independent businesses have a lot to say and thank, to the franchise groups like Aussie and Mortgage Choice, who really not just helped grow the industry, but helped, train a lot of the brokers that are now, running their own business. So I think the training, programs and, the hands-on assistance that some of these big businesses such as Aussie, offer is what's, I think, it's almost, part of the backbone of our industry. It's between the franchise groups and the banks, which, have fed a lot of the brokers, into their own, independent space now. I think, a lot, a thanks needs to go out to them because, many of the brokers that have joined me have come from either banks or franchises. So, and they're obviously all high quality, successful brokers.
Oh, definitely. And being out there on the coaching side, stepping away from a company like Aussie, you realise what a powerful brand. And, when you go and you just see how many one-man operators are out there and it's, the majority of the market, the people operating a franchise business and writing good volumes is a small percentage of all brokers out there. So, in terms of staff, when we were chatting around sort of who you bring on in your team, you're quite specific about who you bring on. So I just wanted you to chat about how you've sort of grown your team.
Yeah, look, I think, obviously over a long period of time and definitely trial and error. And normally, it's me that's letting a broker down if it doesn't work by, not necessarily them letting me down. I think it's really clear to me that the culture is extremely important. Understanding your business and the culture in your business, I think is critical to then know who's going to fit. To me, it's been really important over the last, probably 5 to 10 years, is not just culture's critical, but then also just the right fit and to me, the right fit is someone that obviously one has experience and has either been a broker or a banker and doesn't need the hand holding that a new to industry broker requires. And that's important because I don't have the time and I've tried it and failed. So I've failed them rather than failed me in trying to bring someone on that needs a lot more assistance to be able to obviously, to build their knowledge up. So the brokers that have joined have all had experience, know what they're doing. I can help them with relationships with lenders and structuring, complex deals and so forth, and even supporting with some clients to help build them up. But what I want from someone and what's proven to me is guys and girls that are able to contribute back to the business. And when I say contribute, it's not just someone that wants to join and be under the First Street banner. It's, what do they bring into the table? Are they going to be, contributing towards, process improvements, within our office? Are they going to be contributing towards, new ideas and just improving how we operate? And so I guess that's what I've not necessarily looked for, because our business has grown organically. I've never gone out there and sourced brokers. Everyone that's joined has been either via introduction or, somehow, it's been very organic. I guess has been the growth of it.
Yeah, I think that's right in terms of what you're saying about people being able to add something to the team. And I saw a quote by Phil Jackson, and watching that Michael Jordan documentary at the moment. And, he was saying that it's more important about that spirit and culture of the team, right? That you've got them all sort of driving in the same direction. And I think, that's great about, bringing those types of people, because if we use that sporting analogy, the best teams have the best players, right?
Yep.
And players that want to work together as a team. So it doesn't matter if Michael Jordan's in your team, they've got to all work together to get that end result. And see so many brokers, whether it's hiring a process or whether it's hiring another broker, they'll take the cheap option rather than stretching themselves a little bit to help them get to that next level. They take the cheap option and they don't realise actually there's an opportunity cost that's stopping them from writing more business. So that
I think that's where the value, of where you would come in, being able to give those brokers advice, because you've done it and seen it before, as to why they should be maybe taking the blinkers off a little bit and considering, are they hiring the right person or the right assistant and so forth. And I mean, about Michael Jordan is, and I think what Phil Jackson, did, and it was obviously, it wouldn't have been an easy decision, but to decide that, it can't just be a team, and everyone relies on him, and it can't all be just about him. And there's, and obviously it's a big analogy and I've never considered it before, but, I've always wanted the brokers in my office to be not just self-sufficient, but successful in their own right. We've chatted about it before, it's, whether they work for Aussie or First Street or Mortgage Choice, it's all about the individual. And I've always done what I can to support the individual and to help them grow their brand as wide and large as they choose. We'll support them as much as they possibly want. But to me, it's very much about, growing the individuals within the business so that you obviously all start to, form a team and have similar goals. And I think we all do in our office, which certainly helps. There's very good banter in the office, but everyone is very supportive of one another. So to me, that's really important, and it's a great environment, and I enjoy going to work. So.
Yeah. So how are you keeping the banner going now that you're isolated from each other?
Look, it's building up. So there's banter over the Zoom chats. We've got a Zoom chat going on a daily basis. Everyone can jump on and we'll have our little digs and so forth. But it's probably just going to, it will just build up until we're back in the office. But, look, many of us have become friends and that's great. Outside of the office, we all, are socially friendly. And I pretty much say everyone in the office would fit into that same category. It's quite unique that we work together. And again, I think it's just having, if you're bringing on like-minded people or with, the same, with the same direction and the similar goals, then, obviously it's not a surprise that, we all, socially get on as well. So,
and that's what it's about, right? You get to our stage in business and you realise that, hey, another dollar isn't going to make any difference in your life, right? It's about the enjoyment, it's about the fun that you can have and what you can create together that becomes more important. And same with your real estate referrers, and your top clients become your friends as well. So
agreed.
That's the real importance of this business. I just wanted to touch on process, because you mentioned how they all sort of add into your team sort of feedback. And we've spoken previously, and you've got a great culture there where, as you said, it is that constant development. So I know you've got Grace process. Just explain how they're developed.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, obviously everyone's involved. On a yearly basis, we'll generally, I guess step outside the office and look down and just really just go through the various stages of our process in terms of the customer experience, and how will the customer feel at the various stages of the process. Are there any black holes? Are there any gaps? Is there any areas that we can improve it to simplify the process? What we've always wanted is for the customer at the end of the day to say, you know what, go and speak to Jeremy or go and speak to Marty. The process, they made it so simple. We want clients to feel as complicated as it might be, that we made the process simple. So a referral to us on the back of, they made it seem so easy is so much greater and deeper than, go and see Jeremy because you got me a low interest rate. So I guess we constantly evolve the process throughout the year. If there's any areas to tweak it and improve it, and that's one of the brokers will perk up and say, hey, why don't we consider this? And that's exactly what we've, I guess, developed within the office is that everyone contributes back into the process. So we all follow a very similar process. We're not a franchise group. Everyone can run, their own race to some extent. But I think everyone's joined First Street because of the process we have in place that certainly have proven to be successful, yet constantly still being reviewed and tweaked as need be. But so we really said step outside, look down, and really try to feel how is the experience for the client from start to finish. And I guess, with changes that are going on through compliance and now obviously with COVID, obviously there might be more information we need to gather. How do we just keep it as simple as we possibly can so that the next referral is, go and speak to these guys. They just made it so simple. And that's really, I think, our philosophy.
Yeah, and I think what you touched on there is important. Something that's sort of been learning over the last couple of weeks is in terms of you don't actually learn by doing things, right? You actually learn by taking that step back, and it's the reflection on what you've been doing and then sharing it in that collective group that takes you forward, right? Because quite often we can, have our blinkers on and just do what we normally do in that sort of habit. But it's that, as you said, that having that helicopter view, that reflection on your business that really helps you to take it to the next level.
And look, something else we do, for example, the office manager is not someone that is, has a finance mind, and she is not someone that was employed to need to know anything about home loans. So often actually I'll go to her and say, this is an email I've just created I'm going to start sending out to clients. If you were to read it, what's your opinion on it? How are you going to perceive it? So often, it might be that, we've got, a dozen or more brokers that are all coming together with a great idea, but how is it going to be perceived to a client that maybe has, a different way of thinking than all of us? So it's often important to actually just go and, seek, opinions outside of your inner circle. Because again, it's just how is the client going to perceive? Are they going to understand? Is there ways that we can improve on this to again just make it seem an easier process?
Yeah, and quite often we overcomplicate it with jargon, and it makes it more complicated than what needs to be. So,
and that's like we were chatting. One, speaking English, but two, gone are the days where you and I used to go out and pull a laptop or an iPad and sit it, between us and the customer. To me, that's, and I'm not discouraging people to do it, but to me, that's, now I see that as a barrier between myself and the customer. I'd much rather just have a conversation with them. I know the questions that I need to ask to be able to ascertain whether this is, something that we can continue into a loan application. But, again, just, getting to know the client to me was a lot more important than pulling up the fancy, graphs and trying to talk in a different lingo, than what necessarily the clients, wanted at that stage anyway.
Oh, definitely. And for me, it's the same. It's focus on their why and start with why, as sort of Simon Sinek famously says, and buy into that sort of emotional buy-in around what they're doing it, why they're doing it. And then the what and the how becomes almost irrelevant if you connect on that why level in terms of
Yeah. Look, I think this is, it's down to the long game, the long game. If you want to be, building a $1 billion business or $1 billion loan book, you've got to build relationships with your clients, and you don't want to be out there working on a transaction basis. If your business becomes transactional, I think, you're going to have a very short life with those clients. So, to me, building the relationship is so critical and seems so simple, but it's why, the conversation about rates and products needs to happen at the back end of your meeting, not at the beginning.
Yeah, and Todd Duncan always says, like, if you want clients for a lifetime, you got to talk to them during their lifetime, and that's something that you and your brokers have all taken on board in terms of your annual review process and so forth.
Yep.
So
yeah.
you want to just
it's super important.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely super important. So, mate, just the final thing I wanted to touch on was outsourcing, because I know you've recently started outsourcing some things. So, what are the things that you're outsourcing at the moment?
Yeah. So, look, I mean, I was completely against outsourcing. Just to put it on record, I was, someone that really wanted to I'm a big control freak, so I wanted everything to be done in-house. But obviously, as the business grows, we're also having a problem about needing to relocate. We had to relocate it twice over, must have been 10 years, because of just growing and the office becoming too small. So we got to a point, must be now probably a year and a half or so ago, that we were about to need another, move again. And it was purely needing to move for back office support, for a couple of seats to be made available. And it just didn't make sense to be moving to have a few more people that, for back office. So I explored the option of outsourcing. And we've been working with Loanworks in Manila for the last couple of years. We've got 2 dedicated people there that are full-time First Street staff, and they handle all of our, anything that is non-client, non-lender facing. So they don't speak to clients or lenders on our behalf. So they'll look after, loan applications to the point where they'll come back to the broker, and the broker will then, check it over, and then the broker will submit it. They'll do our settlement file reviews and so forth post-settlement. But again, we were very conscious that what they would do for us would purely be non-client, non-lender, because again, we wanted to keep that relationship with our clients and the relationship with the lenders, which is equally important, to keep our SLAs and everything else up to speed. So I guess, we identified areas, within the business that wouldn't impact our relationship with our clients. And that's effectively what we've handed over. So any area of back office data entry that we could hand over, we have. And, they fall under the same, processes. We've developed additional processes, obviously, for them to follow. But it's been a huge success, and we certainly don't look back. And I would encourage anyone else to look into it. I think it's been a great addition to our business.
Are you using any tech to sort of manage those guys, or it's just fairly basic?
No, I mean, everything's obviously cloud-based. Files being handed over generally via our we're connected brokers. So via Mercury, we use a CRM and all the tools and tasks that come along with that. So that's how we generally are allocating tasks to Loanworks, to the staff in Manila. But then there's a few other checks and balances that are done along the way to ensure that nothing's missed. But so we have some cross-check measures in place to ensure that the process isn't broken. And again, we have regular meetings with them, and we even encourage the Loanworks staff to provide feedback as to how we could improve our processes. So no matter what area of the business we're referring to, we are constantly evolving the process. As little areas as it might seem to be at the time, but it's just constant. So there's no stage of our process, I guess the journey is the process locked down. It's just where we can improve, we will improve, and we seek advice. We seek outsiders to provide advice on areas that we can improve on. So size of your business, I think there's always room to improve your process. And even speaking to other brokers, or obviously, you're the conduit. Given obviously what you're now operating is that you're speaking to a lot of brokers. You're going to have, I imagine, some great feedback to be able to assist many businesses looking to grow from what you're hearing other brokers are doing.
Oh, definitely. It's been great, and it's been great to get outside of Aussie and to look into some other businesses for sure. I want to wrap it up, but before we do, just looking back, if you can give a couple of tips to somebody that's looking to start out, looking to grow $1 billion business, what would those parting tips be?
Yeah. So this isn't scripted.
Yeah.
Either, and obviously I'm wasn't aware of the question, but to be honest, I think that the hardest thing for me was just being isolated, not having a mentor or someone that I could actually speak to, or not reaching out to someone such as yourself to say, hey, you know what, I want to operate on my own, I want to be an independent broker, but I really just need some support. So whether it's, starting out and joining a brokerage, or starting out and joining a franchise group, or reaching out to someone obviously such as yourself, I think that is, to me, I did that a bit too late and started to realize down the track, after speaking to brokers, but it was many years until I started to even go to events and so forth, and start to realize I should have done this a lot earlier. But I think for someone starting out, I would be 1,000,000% if I was doing it again, reaching out for support, having a mentor, having someone around me that I can reach out and ask questions to, because, I still look, we've got brokers in our office that, are 10, 15 years, in the industry, and still asking questions in our office, for support or advice. So someone starting out needs, even more. And I certainly can only assume that if I had the support of someone like, you and your business, it wouldn't have taken me 6 or 9 months to be, writing home loans. It might have been a different path I could have, done, or you might have provided some suggestions of other areas to explore to generate business. So that's all. And that's not, as I said, I'm not scripted, that's genuine. I really believe that, we all like to say we did it on our own, and we love to say, yep, started on my own and now I've got X amount of people, but the journey doesn't need to be, you can still get there, but I think reaching out for support is just certainly what I would be suggesting anyone does that's starting out.
Oh, definitely. And I found that starting in this coaching business, that people are happy to help. Like, you're helping me out here, and people are happy to help. And, I traveled India, and one of the big messages, and I saw the Dalai Lama and a couple other people, but your happiness comes from not your own, it comes from giving and serving to others. And I loved when you said that your business is around helping your brokers succeed. And the most successful brokers that I'm seeing at the moment and aggregators have the broker in the center, and they're building all their systems and processes, one, to make the broker's life easy, because then that makes the client's life easy, exactly what you said. So
look, you give before you get, and I think if you give without the expectation to get, it comes back in in a roundabout way, and so I genuinely believe that we do a lot of community stuff, and we support various charities and so forth, and we do that not to get, but as I said, it comes around in roundabouts, and I think our industry as a general, I think certainly give, and recently the industry jumped on the broker, the bushfire appeal. I know that Aussie was a huge contributor and a few other large groups. And, I think, again, we're giving and I think that's just, part of our job is what exactly that, we're giving our time. We're not always going to get financially remunerated for it, but yeah, I think it's a good philosophy,
especially now with everyone that's looking at sort of taking repayment holidays, and we're doing a lot of work and not getting paid for it. But as you said, it's the long game. It's the long
Correct.
game. Thanks so much. Been so much insight, so many pearls of wisdom that you've delivered. Been a pleasure to have you. Yeah. So. Thanks for joining the $1 Billion Broker podcast. If you enjoyed it, come and join us on the Facebook group, the $1 Billion Broker page, and I'll add you to that group. And to be sure to rate us on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. So thanks, and we'll talk to you soon.